Alright, hello guys, Loprez here. Today we're going to be doing a JSON serialization tutorial with generics. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create a console application. I did a few things already, so I've added the game object. Didn't mess with Unity too much, sorry. The object. I named it game info, basically the same as the previous tutorial once it's uploaded. And I just gave it a few fields that we can mess with here. So now that this is created, we can go ahead and create a method for serializing JSON data and deserializing. So we're going to go ahead and create a folder, and I'm just going to call it utils. I'm going to, in this folder, create a new C# script, and we're going to call it, this is going to be a weird name, but we're going to call it JSON serializing. And that is because I would have done JSON serializer, but that is actually in use by the system.text.json. So I'm not going to be using that one for this. And the class, because we don't need to instantiate it every single time, this is just a utility we want to use. We're going to name it, make it a public static class, and we're going to go ahead and start with that. So the first thing you're going to want to make sure you have up here is you're going to want to do a using statement for system.text.json, and that should be good there. And now we can get started with our first method, and we're going to do another public, and this is going to be the static. This is going to be the serialize method, so we don't need to return anything. This is just going to be creating an actual serialize. This is going to just be creating an actual file. So do that, and what do we need to pass in? We need to pass in the actual generic object, so JSON data I'm going to call it, and then we're going to also grab the string, and this string is going to have our file name attached to it, and just because I want it here, I'm going to also add a boolean for the overwrite. Set this to false by default. That's just because in case you want to overwrite the file, it might be easier to just have an override, basically, in case the file already exists. So we're going to make a variable options, and this is going to set our JSON serializer to format the data correctly. Options, and we're going to do that. Oh, sorry, not that one, this one. And we're going to do right indented equals to true, I believe. Yeah. There we go. And that should be good there. So if this is set up, then now instead of the data coming in as a single line, every time it'll be formatted correctly in the actual file. So we're also going to make an if statement, and we're going to check if the file exists. File, I'm going to do this system.io, and then exists, and we're going to check file name, and then we're also going to see if the override or overwrite, sorry, is true, and we don't want file, we want file name. There we go, that's good, and now we can actually serialize our JSON data. So we're going to do a string JSON string that is equal to, and we're going to grab the JSON data from the generic that gets passed in. Okay, we're going to do JSON serializer dot serialize, and we're going to pass in the JSON data, and we're also going to pass in options. Oh, I called it option. I'm just going to do options just because that's how my brain works. And then finally, we're going to actually write that data to a file. Create, and oops, sorry, that's not correct. Writing all text. Do I not need to create the file? Does this create the file already? Creates a new file. Oh, okay, yeah, never mind. No, we're good. So that creates it automatically. Okay, we're going to pass in the file name. And we're also going to pass in the JSON string, I believe it is. Yeah. And there we go. And that is our serializer method created. So what this is going to do is when we call this method, and we can do it right now actually, we can go to program and we can just do this, save me a bit of time. We'll call this, since it's static, we don't need to initiate the method, although we do need to add it to our using statements. And we'll do JSON serialize, and we're going to pass in game. And we'll also pass in the file name. So I'll do game info dot JSON. And that's it. And now, because we have a generic, we can pass in any object we want into this field here. Same way as the system.text works, honestly. The only nice thing about doing it this way is that now you have a method that handles the actual file creation as well. And that's honestly it. So if we run this, shouldn't get any errors. And we should be golden. So if we go into our folder and file explorer, go into the bin, debug, .NET 5, and we have the gameinfo.json. There we go. And here we go. And we see it's formatted correctly because we had the indented set to true, and we have all the info that was part of our object. And that works fine. So now, what we want to do is we want to grab the info and bring it back into our program using the deserializer. So we're going to do another public static, and this time we're going to actually want a generic because we're returning a generic as well. JSON deserialize, and we want to do T and T and oh, sorry, no, that's not right. Yeah, here we go, just like that. And then string file name, because all we need to do is actually pass in a file name here. And then finally what we're going to do is we're going to create a string file string. So we're going to add all the data to a single string in here. And it's going to be equal to file dot read all text. And we're going to pass in the file name. And that's it for that. And this one's even easier, honestly, which is really nice. We're going to create a generic, and this is going to be the JSON data equal to, and we'll do JSON serialize. No, sorry. Yeah, oh shoot, no, that was right. Serialize dot, shoot. JSON serializer dot deserialize, and then we want to pass in the actual file string that we're passing. Oh, for goodness sake. String. There we go. File name. File string. Oh, file string is correct. And we are missing the generic here because we don't know what we're passing in here yet. And then finally, the last thing we need to do is return the JSON data. And it is that easy. That is all you need. And like I said, you could very well just use the JSON data, get the object you want specifically typed in your main class, because if you know what you're calling for, especially the deserialize is pretty simple. This is more made because I'm usually using this when I'm calling for a file string, or when I'm making an API call, I might have another one of these, something like that. But either way, that's good to go. And in program.cs, we can go ahead and just quickly, we'll also do JSON serializing.json deserialize, and we'll return an object of game info, and we want to pass in the string up here. I didn't create a string properly here, but we'll just do that right there. I believe that's all we need there, and we'll do a console. dot right line, and we will. Oh, and we want to grab the var that comes out of this var. This is just debugging for me. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to do that dot game name, and we are expecting it to be game info coming back. And that should be good. So if we run this, we have already created the file, so it won't create another one because it exists, and we don't have the overwrite to true. And we are going to return the data that's in that file already. Generic, go, and we hit this. We can hover over debug here, and we can see all the values that are there. So the game ID, Jack and Daxter, and description, which is all correct. And if we continue, we can go into the file here, and we can see because we have the debug.game name, we have Jack and Daxter there ready to go. And that is it. It is that simple to create JSON data. The only reason I made this was more of an idea to learn some generics to see where it might be used. In this case, it was to create a file with any data you would need to access at that time. That's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, post them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Bye.